Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. You ran the slowest and even in the sky before landing here. Since you revealed your location like that, of course, it attracted hunters. The devil expert looked warily at the shattered rocks on the ground, but his expression was quite relaxed. On top of that, you look to be the easiest to bully among the group, so how could I not come? However, your abilities are somewhat out of my expectations. He looked at the shattered rocks on the ground and his pupils slightly contracted. He slowly released his aura bit by bit. You look easy to bully, but your abilities are extremely strong. Even though you don't have the aptitude of a true god, your abilities are already there. You're no weaker than Shu Yao, Huang Yu, and the rest. I really wish I could know how many of your abilities are you still withholding after the battle between you and Shaquan. Is this peach easy for me to pluck? On the ground, flying swords gently floated up and Qin Mu straightened his back while taking in deep breaths. Suddenly, his breathing returned to normal and he smiled. Ever since I've become the Heavenly Devil Cult Master, no one has said that I look easy to bully. If you want to pluck this peach, why don't you try it for yourself? He'd been breathless moments ago, but now it was as if there was nothing wrong with him. The devil expert smiled slightly. Shaquan abilities are extremely powerful, to the point that even I needed to be somewhat wary of them. After a life and death fight with him, your injuries can't be light. You suppressed your breathing, but you can't hide your injuries. However, don't worry, if your abilities are strong enough to threaten me, I will turn and leave to find other people. He surveyed the surroundings and said leisurely, after all, there is still an unknown number of opponents hidden in this forest, so I have to preserve my strength to deal with them, right? His voice had a devilish ring to it, as though he was a kind neighboring brother who was really concerned about the other. However, Qin Mu's mind was still clear. He was the Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Even though he frequently called himself Heavenly Saint Cult Master, there were numerous great experts that were proficient in the devil path in Heavenly Devil Cult. Great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures were extremely strange and changed along with the heart. If there was devil nature in one's heart, great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures would hold devil techniques, and if God nature was in one's heart, they would be righteous. As Heavenly Devil Cult Master, Qin Mu wasn't at the level where he could be bluffed by the devil voice. He didn't believe even one word that the devil expert had said. Those words were for Qin Mu let his guard down. All that nonsense about turning to leave and having an unknown number of opponent hidden, if he believed it, he would die. Qin Mu stood still, not moving. 8,000 swords were strewn at random in the air and floated around him. They were waiting in the battle array of sword-treading mountains and rivers to unleash its power. The devil expert suddenly moved, rushing straight at Qin Mu. The energy which exploded from the corporeal body of this young true devil was terrifying. When Qin Mu's sword-treading mountains and rivers was released, he was ready to rush through them. Qin Mu shouted out, and sword-treading mountains and rivers still managed to trap his body. The devil expert then took out a huge flag and swept it toward the sword light. A huge chunk went missing from the picture of mountains and rivers. Formation expert. Qin Mu was astonished. The huge flag was stabbed into the ground where it spread open and revealed countless devil markings. They swirled around, and an eye took shape. The devil expert fell back and jumped inside it, vanishing without a trace. The sword-treading mountains and river exploded, but it couldn't do anything to that devil flag. It was evident that the devil flag was an unusual treasure. Qin Mu was about to mobilize Carefree Sword to cut it apart when the devil expert appeared behind him. Qin Mu swung his sword there, but another huge flag appeared. The devil expert jumped into it to disappear again, causing his attack to miss. Only a huge flag was left in the ground. Soon, there were 8 flags around Qin Mu. They spread out, and the end of each flag connected to another one, forming an octagonal formation that took up the area of a sports field. In the center of each flag, there was an open devil eye. Qin Mu frowned as trails of devil chi shot out from the devil eyes, bombarding him. Vital chi around his body rose and transformed into a huge bell that was there yet not there. Around the bell's wall, Countless lightning markings coiled. He was using 5th Ancestor Human Emperor's 5 Thunder Heaven-raising bell. Clang, clang, clang. Loud explosions rang out as Qin Mu struck outward from the inside of the bell, fighting with the trails of devil chi. 5 Thunder Heaven-raising bell was sometimes big and sometimes small, sometimes powerful and sometimes weak. In the meantime, the devil flag swirled continuously, and the devil chi from the devil eyes was sometimes thick and sometimes thin, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. This caused the bell to ring continuously and churn Qin Mu's chi and blood. He moved, and 5 Thunder Heaven-raising bell also moved with him. However, the devil flags outside also moved along with him. 5 Thunder Heaven-raising bell was 5th Ancestor Human Emperor's ultimate art, which mixed corporeal body divine arts with lightning divine arts. 5 lightning were the 5 big thunderclouds, and he used his strong corporeal body to execute them to form bell markings. Every punch and every kick would cause the 5 bolts of lightning to spread, and the bell would contract before expanding. The power of the 5 thunderclouds could increase by a lot, so it was the most suitable to destroy devil techniques. Yet now, Qin Mu couldn't break it. He suddenly transformed into the form of Saturn's sovereign. Gate of Heaven influence appeared behind him and he spun around, sweeping it past the 8 huge flags. Soon though, it was shattered by the beams of the devil chi. Gate of Heaven influence hadn't managed to force out the true form of the devil expert. Eyes awaken. Layers of formation marking swirled in Qin Mu's eyes, and he looked around himself. Yet no matter in which direction he turned, he couldn't find the devil expert. He could only see figures moving quickly through the flags as though they were phantoms. Within the formation, the huge bell that was struck by the devil chi didn't completely disperse it. Instead, they moved in fine lines that could be seen by the naked eye. Those lines were laid in the space and sliced it into numerous chunks. Each cubic space had runes of the devil path continuously forming inside. The devil was a formation expert. The attack earlier had been a diversion, while his true goal was to trap Qin Mu in his killing formation and purifying him. In this way, he could preserve his strength to deal with other people. He was planning to use the smallest amount of energy possible to get rid of Qin Mu. The human youth's magic power far surpassed that of his peers, and his divine arts were overbearing and fierce. There were many people that could force him to guard, but only a few strong practitioners like First Ancestor Human Emperor and Village Chief could be able to suppress him on the same realm. However, the devil expert he now faced was also one of them. First Ancestor and Village Chief were experts that had entered the path, so it was not surprising for them to be able to that. However, the devil expert was of the younger generation. From just this point, it could be seen how profound were his formation attainments. Formation skill? Qin Mu suddenly dispersed 5 Thunder Heaven-raising bell and stretched his hand to grab his sword pellet with a tight grip. Fine flying swords flowed out like water and transformed into a huge spear. If anyone was to look at it in detail, they would see that it was constructed from countless fine flying swords which were moving non-stop. Every sword was executing spiral sword form, and the tip of the spear was carefree sword that was incomparably sharp. At the same time, runes appeared around Qin Mu's body. They weren't powerful divine arts markings, but symbols of algebra and mathematics, Taiji diagram, Uji diagram, sun and moon runes, 5 elements runes, 6 directions arrays, 8 trigrams arrays, 64 hexagrams. They were changing continuously, constructing a kind of system that calculated the isometric space. The runes changed irregularly, calculating the formation structure that was formed by the 8 devil flags. Countless runes bounced around, and the calculation speed was dazzling to behold. Qin Mu focused his vision, and his body moved with the spear. It flew out like a dragon covered in silver light. Every beam of devil chi hit by it was shattered. Suddenly, the 8 flags swayed and were taken back. The formation of the devil expert was broken, and his true form was revealed. He swept up the flags and immediately left. He laughed and said, "It's rare to meet an expert skilled in calculations. Your abilities are very strong, farewell." The flag covered him, and he instantly vanished. Qin Mu stabbed the huge spear in the ground, his spirit unrivaled. He didn't relax at all. After a moment though, his aura suddenly weakened and he coughed up blood. He gasped for breath and sat down on his butt. At that moment, the devil expert appeared behind him like a phantom and stabbed his huge flag witch like a spear at Qin Mu. He laughed again. "You truly have no more strength left, so I'm back again." A strange smile appeared on Qin Mu's face. He was sitting with his back toward the devil youth as the huge spear in his hand separated into two huge knives. Holding one of them properly and the other in reverse, he hid one behind his back to block the huge flag that came straight for his heart. The other knife was hidden in front of his chest. Qin Mu spun around and slashed with the huge knife which he'd held at the front of the huge flag. The devil expert was astonished, and the flag in his hand swayed until both of his arms went numb. "Do you know the sure kill technique of the battle technique school?" Both of them were leaning forward, and Qin Mu spoke into his opponent's ear. His feet were off the ground, but he was still sitting, as though that devil's move had turned him around like a spinner. This was a trick that Butcher had frequently played on Qin Mu when he had no legs. It was used to test his move, raising the knife from forbidden. It was the most dangerous move among Butcher's knife skills. The devil expert moved irregularly and his body shifted like a phantom, but he could never shake Qin Mu off. His speed was indeed faster, but Qin Mu stuck to his back as though their bodies were glued together. The devil expert's figure transformed continuously, and his body movements were truly strange and unpredictable. In time, he managed to shake off Qin Mu and was delighted. He could finally deal with him face to face. At this moment, Qin Mu's voice came from beside his ears. "What's your name?" "My name is..." Knife light shone, and Qin Mu raised his blade with a reverse grip. The devil expert couldn't even finish his answer before the power of this move burst forth. "Sorry, I didn't let you finish speaking." Qin Mu put away his knives. They flowed down from his hands like quicksand, changing into a sword pellet. The devil expert's belly was sliced open, and his corporeal body collapsed on the ground. Qin Mu let out a shaky breath and shook his head. "Another expert and I will be dead." He tilted his head to listen, but there was no noise in the mountains surrounding him. After a moment, he repeatedly weakly, "Another expert and I will be dead." The majestic mountains in the surroundings still had no movement. "Work?" Qin Mu opened his mouth and spat out blood before collapsing onto the ground. He twitched twice and gave a kick with his leg before taking his last breath. The surrounding mountains were still silent, without any movement at all. Qin Mu's face turned green and his body grew stiff. His blood and flesh hardened, but there was still no movement in the surroundings. After a moment, Qin Mu got up and went back to the wall of fire to forge his flying swords without a change in expression. A female devil on a mountaintop raised her head and watched the youth from above. She then suddenly turned around and left without any hesitation. "The forging brat is even more devilish than me. I can't provoke him." At that moment, Huang Yu stopped and raised his head to look at the mountain top. There was a person carrying a long knife standing upright there. "Zhuali!" The cloud vapor above Huang Yu's head steamed, the vision formed from his primordial spirit breathing vital qi in and out. At this moment, his gaze landed on the person on the mountain and the vapor cloud grew. It gained an area of half a field. The vital qi in the vapor cloud condensed into droplets of rainwater that could be faintly seen falling to the ground. When they landed on the young man's head, they evaporated and went back up into the vapor cloud again. This looped over and over again. The mountain had been raised by Saint Woodcutter and Fu Riluo's vital qi runes and not made by true creation, so it wasn't too high. Huang Yu scaled it, coming to the mountaintop in a few steps before stopping when he was still over 100 yards away from Zhuali. "When I met you in the battlefield, I almost died at your hands." Huang Yu's aura rose dramatically, and his fighting spirit overflowed. Even if he was defeated before, he wasn't the least bit afraid. Instead, his boundless fighting spirit was ignited. He was a battle maniac and had no fear. "I've always been searching for you to take revenge for my loss." Huang Yu was excited. "May senior brother give me this chance?" Zhuali turned around and his gaze fell on him. The devil eye on the handle of the demon knife behind his back didn't open, however. His right foot suddenly shifted, and the tip of his foot pointed diagonally. His feet weren't lined up as he pointed his left foot at Huang Yu and his right foot at another woman that was scaling up the mountain. She appeared in front of them the next moment. Huang Yu's expression sunk, and he said coldly, "Chen Yuan, don't interfere with my matter, otherwise, I will kill you as well." Chen Yuan was also a divine arts practitioner of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Huang Yu and the rest had first rushed toward the place where the axe and spear crossed when they had entered the sand table world. However, when everyone was heading there, the place lost its meaning, so they had all entered hiding. The only one who didn't hide was Qin Mu. He had sprinted furiously through midair, and because of his great speed, he'd left a trail of clouds all the way to the border of the sand table world, guiding the others toward him. Next, Qin Mu hadn't bothered to hide and began hammering iron, luring numerous devil experts into trying to hunt him down. With the devil experts busy, the experts of Supreme Emperor Heaven had the rare chance to hunt the devil experts that were on the route. Chen Yuan had noticed this and had stayed guard on the route that had to be taken to get to Qin Mu. She discovered Zhehuali, who was standing on the mountain top, and also seen Huang Yu. In delight, she scaled up the mountain, planning to work with Huang Yu, the rank 3 strong practitioner, to get rid of the devil expert. Senior brother Huang Yu, you and senior sister Yu He are both disciples of true God Pang Yu, so you should know that the general situation is more important. Chen Yuan stared at Zhehuali with a grim expression. She then added solemnly, "This duel isn't just about your personal grudge, nor is it a chance for you to chase the extremes of your paths, skills, and divine arts. It concerns the ownership of Li City and the fate of our Supreme Emperor Heaven. No matter if it's me or you, it will be hard for either of us to deal with this person, but together we can take him down. I won't work together with you, so fall back." Huang Yi had a firm expression and shook his head. "Seeing that we are both divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven, I won't kill you. However, if you take the chance to kill senior brother Zhehuali while we are fighting, don't blame me for being ruthless." His gaze was firm when he looked at Zhehuali. His desire to seek Tao was incomparably intense, and he chuckled. "If I'm victorious, he will die at my hands. If I'm defeated, he will also be heavily injured. You can take the chance to make your move then and not play with the fate of Li City. You just have to watch, otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Chen Yuan frowned slightly, but she took a step back. Huang Yu became excited and his aura became even more intense. "Zhehuali, please guide me. You aren't my opponent. The so-called young true gods of your Supreme Emperor Heaven are merely a joke in my eyes." Zhehuali's expression was indifferent. "You guys don't know the true meaning of being a true god. You think you're destined to be one just because your corporeal body reaches the level of a young true god. You have no idea that you are still far off. There are 3 things that make a young true god, and those are the corporeal body, primordial spirit, and path. You guys have only achieved 1, but I'm different." The demon knife on his back trembled gently and hummed. He said leisurely, "Before I came down to the lower bound, I have already achieved 2, with only my path still lacking. My descent to pay respect to Fu Riluo as my master is my cultivation in seeking my Tao. Huang Yu, you are obsessed with the paths, skills, and divine art, so you are about to achieve the second requirement. I admire this determination of yours, so come together, don't lose your life for nothing. Don't look down on me nor my paths, skills, and divine arts. Without destruction, there can be no creation. One can only become stronger when encountering someone stronger." Army vanquishing mountain. Huang Yu howled and sprinted forward furiously. As he did so, his attack was unleashed, and his fist skill transformed into a divine art. In that instant, countless apparitions of fists appeared and accumulated into a mountain. The next moment, they were like an army vanquishing star. His fists were so heavy that the wind from them could compress the air and send waves of explosions as though thunder was rumbling. This move from Huang Yu showed his astonishing attainments in fist skills. When he had fought with Zhehuali on the battlefield, he had realized his inadequateness, and when he met Zhehuali now, under the pressure of a strong enemy, he was actually able to improve by another step. His divine art army vanquishing mountain was about to reach perfection. Behind Jahwali's back, the demon knife suddenly opened its eye and swirled, expanding while turning the color of blood. Jahwali stretched his hand to pull out his knife and slashed at army vanquishing mountain. Instantly, knife light burst forth and collided with the fist apparitions. The knife light ricocheted and seemed to transform into 10,000 knife lights in an instant, forming a knife mountain that broke army vanquishing mountain. 10,000 knife lights suddenly merged. The one then came for Huang Yu's head. He clasped his hands to grab it, but the demon knife suddenly split into two and Huang Yu's expression changed slightly. Flesh grew under his armpits and two arms clasped the second knife light. Before he could even let out a sigh of relief though, the two demon knives separated into four. Huang Yu shouted angrily and more flesh wriggled under his armpits. 4 more arms grew out to grab the knife lights that were slashing toward him. Then, he looked in despair as the 4 knife lights separated into 8 to slash him. Kai, 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 Kai. The new knife light slashed down, and Huang Yu lowered his head, looking those that had vanished into the ground. 4 long and straight wounds appeared on his face, growing longer and larger. Jahwali shook his demon knife and gently sheathed it on his back while Huang Yu split into several pieces. He then looked at Chan Yuan, who had a grim expression and was slowly moving back. Go, I don't kill a woman, Jahwali said indifferently. Chan Yuan still didn't relax and continued to move back calmly. When she was a mile away, she turned and ran furiously for her life. At that moment, Jahwali's muscles tensed up, and he sprinted forward with all his strength. With a loud explosion, he surpassed the speed of sound and pulled out his knife with both hands to slash straight down. The knife instantly reached Chan Yuan's back. She turned in the air, throwing out her sword pellet which expanded outwards. Before the flying swords could even shoot out, the knife cut her from the top of her head. Jahwali stopped and put away his knife, turning to leave. I need to have the man from the painting see my master's knife skills, so I cannot be injured and had to slay you from the back. With a calm expression, he tilted his head to listen for the source of the hammer. Woman, the instant you turned around, your flaw was the biggest. Never show your back in front of me. Behind him, Chan Yuan fell down. On the other side, mountains crumbled as 2 figures were fighting fiercely among them. Mountains with blade-like precipices were pierced through and shattered into runes, vanishing into the air. The battle ended very quickly, and Yu touched the wound on her face. Her opponent had died, but he had still injured her. She raised her head and looked at the knife light which flashed and disappeared in the sky, then knitted her eyebrows. Jahwali, you and the blacksmith are equally showy, but I don't have absolute confidence that I can defeat you. She turned to leave. I need to find junior brothers and sisters before eliminating you. The sand table world was vast, making it hard to find other people. There were battles erupting at several mountains. The divine arts practitioners met the experts of the devil race, and they naturally used all of their strength to slay their opponents. That was why after any 2 people from opposing sides met, the battle would usually end in a short while. The divine arts practitioners would end up either dead or crippled, making the situation quite grim. However, even if it was just for a short while, it was enough time for them to fight over a dozen miles. Everywhere they passed, mountains were cut and even crumbled. The destruction they caused was quite a sight. There were even some who used huge divine arts to destroy an area of 100 miles, which was terrifying. Of course, this was the sand table world and not the real world. If it was the world outside, even though the divine arts practitioners on 7 Stars realm weren't weak, they didn't have such destructive force. The place where the axe and spear crossed was one of tranquility. Sanghua set up her trap excitedly and lay in ambush. She quietly waited for enemies to fall into her death trap. Time passed by slowly. After 2 hours, the young girl popped her head out from her hiding place with her 2 long braids hanging down. Another 2 hours passed, and Sanghua sat down on the head of the axe. Her palm supported her chin while she swayed her legs in utter boredom. Another 2 hours passed, and Sanghua lay down on the axe. She looked at the sky while wondering, where is everybody? She suddenly sat up, a little crazed. Where have they all went? Isn't this place where everyone was sure to fight? No matter if it's friend or foe, someone just come here. Outside the sand table world, the gods and devils looked at the battle inside with both delight and anxiousness. It hadn't been long, but plenty of battles had already been fought. When Qin Mu had killed 3 devils and lay down on the ground as a corpse to lure the 4th opponent, most of the devil gods couldn't help becoming nervous. They were all breaking out in cold sweat for the female devil that was hiding in the mountain top nearby. Luckily, she wasn't tricked and just turned to leave. Most of the devil gods let out sighs of relief then. "My lord, he is truly your successor," the black tiger god stated with excitement. Saint Woodcutter was expressionless while Fu Riluo smiled. Their gazes met before shifting away. When everyone saw Shahuali slaying the 2 young experts, Wang Yu and Qian Yuan, with 2 knives, most of the gods of Supreme Emperor Heaven couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat. They were truly worried for the other divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven. However, the most worried one was still Sanghua's father, God Sang Yi. He gripped his fists tightly, his palms all sweaty. "Good daughter, don't come out, just stay there obediently." God Sang Yi stared intensely at the place where the axe and spear crossed and saw Sanghua jumping down from the axe. His expression couldn't help changing, and he chanted to himself, "Don't go out, don't ever go out." Sanghua ran out. "Don't meet an enemy, don't meet an enemy." A female devil was heading over straight for her. God Sang Yi nearly fainted. "She's going to die." Suddenly, Sanghua seemed to feel something and stopped in her footsteps. The female devil in front also felt danger and immediately stopped. With not high but precipitous mountains separating them, they executed their divine arts. It happened nearly at the same time, each of them imprinting on the mountain in front of them. The violent divine arts of the 2 women collided, and after a moment of silence, the mountain crumbled and dust rose into the sky like fog. Within it, rune markings began to disintegrate and turned into spots of bright light as though they were exploding fireworks. The 2 women couldn't see each other, and their sword and knife pellets flew out of their sleeves to circle around their beautiful bodies. The fine flying swords and curved knives fluttered around their clothing like fireflies dancing in the sky. Sanghua had learned from her father, God Sang Yi, so what she knew was sword skills. The female devil on the other side was Devil Knife Fu Luotor's disciple, so she cultivated knife skills. They touched each other at the same instant and they were like 2 butterflies flying around each other as their pellets spun. Incomparably fine knives and swords clashed, and sparks burst out. God Sang Yi's sword skills, you are Sanghua. Devil Knife Fu Luotor's knife skills, you are Bai Yi. The 2 girls immediately recognized each other's skills. Among the knife lights and sword shadows, the 2 graceful girls unleashed their divine arts at close range. A knife light penetrated through divine arts, and the sword light swept past hair. The bright light given off by the rolling pellets lit up their eyes and shone on their bodies. Even though their corporeal bodies looked delicate, they possessed energy that even surpassed that of Qin Mu. When they saw each other, their bodies had already reacted before they could even form thoughts. With their palms, elbows, shoulders, legs, and knees, they attacked their opponent like a raging storm. The 2 girls grunted and suffered from the other's moves, falling out of the fireworks. They rolled down the mountain like tattered sacks and only stopped after some 6-7 miles. When they were about to stop rolling, the sword pellet and knife pellets that they had used to attack each other had come to their heads. The swords and knives rained down, and in an instant, hundreds of curved knives and flying swords poured down. The 2 girls tumbled and flipped. Sanghua took down the bow on her back and rolled around like a leopard cat. With every tumble, there would be over a dozen arrows shooting out. In the meantime, 13 miles on the other side, Bai Yi had also taken out her devil bow to attack back. Behind them, the knife and sword lights were still clashing. The 2 girls went around a mountain and fought across it. The vibration of the bowstrings created crisp sounds as the mountain was pierced, gaining numerous holes. As the 2 were sprinting at high speed to avoid each other's arrows, swords, and knives, Sanghua suddenly saw the huge axe and spear. They had actually gone back to the place where the 2 large weapons crossed. One of the girls sprinted up the huge axe while the other jumped onto the black spear. They moved like snakes while attacking each other. When they finally fought to the peak of the two divine weapons, the two girls suddenly fell like shooting stars after executing all kinds of moves in midair. Sanghua hurriedly took a look and saw Bai Yi falling into the trap she had laid earlier. She then immediately activated the sword pellet formation she had set up. As the only child of God Sang Yi, Sanghua could have anything she wanted. Even though she couldn't refine a sword pellet like Qin Mu, she felt no lack of sword pellets. She had placed 7 of them in her 7-star sword diagram. The divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven were too lazy to cultivate algebra, so they used the simplest method, and that was to copy the sword diagrams that the ancestors had left behind. By refining treasure according to the methods left behind, the time they saved could be used on cultivation. 7-star sword diagram was one such formation. 7-star sword picture wasn't very complicated, and many divine arts practitioners just copied the sword diagrams. Their power wasn't great, but with 7 sword pellets, it would be no small matter. In a life and death struggle, even if it was a short while in which one was hindered, it was enough to determine their fate. There was nothing then that needed to be said about falling into a trap. Sanghua acted without thinking. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The curved bow shot numerous arrow lights into the sword diagrams. Bai Yi blocked left and right, defending hard against the attacks, but the next moment, the sword pellet from Sanghua's hand flew out and the flying swords formed a line. The first one stabbed through the devil's heart of the brows, then the second followed right after, and so did the others. A few hundred swords flew out one after another from the back of her head. Bai Yi's body turned stiff as she was swallowed by the countless swords bursting forth from the 7-star sword diagram. I won. This video will end here.